Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, January the 13th. 9-game slate for Friday night. As always guys, we're going to talk through each one of these 9 games. I'm going to give you guys a quick game-by-game breakdown, what I do like, taking a first look at this slate on Thursday night. But as always, before we get started with the breakdown, if you guys enjoy these DFS videos, if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below. I always do appreciate the likes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and you have not checked out PrizePicks, they are the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks, use my promo code Noah. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And for those of you that have never heard about PrizePicks, they're a player prop site, a little bit different than DraftKings and FanDuel. You're not building out a lineup, you're not competing against other players. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to a 6-pick entry. You can also mix and match sports on PrizePicks. It's a ton of fun. You guys definitely need to be playing over there. And if you aren't signed up for PrizePicks yet, again, use that promo code Noah when you do sign up, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through Friday's 9-game slate. And we'll start off with the first game of the night, the Knicks and the Wizards. So we'll start off on the Washington side. There is some injury news to keep an eye on here. Obviously, no Bradley Beal, but Kristaps Porzingis and Daniel Gafford are both questionable. They both did not play last game. We saw Taj Gibson start at center, and then we did see Deni Avdija move back into the starting lineup. So we'll have to wait and see, if Porzingis and Gafford are able to play. If Porzingis and Gafford play, I really don't like much on the Wizards here. Porzingis is really expensive at $10K. Don't really like him at that price tag. Kuzma at $8,700. I'm not super interested in if Porzingis is in. Like, the Wizards are probably a fade for me if Porzingis and Gafford are in. But if they are out again, then we can look to Kuzma at $8,700. Kuzma was really disappointing last game, but he played big minutes. He had really good volume, really good usage, took 20 shots. He didn't really have the best game overall. Only 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He's normally a guy that can get a lot of rebounds, get some assists as well, but those were down a little bit last game. I would still be interested in going back to Kuzma if Porzingis is out today. And then we could also go back to some of these value guys. So Deni Avdija had a really big game last game. He played huge minutes, 35 minutes. He had 20 rebounds. I don't know if we can expect Deni Avdija to have 20 rebounds again, but clearly he's going to play a lot if Porzingis and Gafford are out. Taj Gibson did start. He didn't really have the greatest game, but he played 25 minutes, had 27 DK points. I think the upside on Taj Gibson's pretty minimal. Like, at this point in his career, I don't think he's really a guy that offers a ton of upside. But if there's no Gafford or there's no Porzingis, he's gonna have to play 24, 25 minutes. I don't love the matchup at all. I think the matchup's pretty bad. The Knicks do a really good job clogging the paint. They don't really give up a lot of putbacks and stuff like that, and that's where Taj Gibson's going to do a lot of his damage. But again, he's 3,500. He's going to play like 25 minutes, so he would be a playable option. Rui Hachimura was someone that I kind of had some interest in last slate. He didn't play nearly as much as I thought he would. I figured without Porzingis and Gafford, we'd see Rui play like 25 to 28 minutes. He only played 20 minutes last game. Little weird. At 5K, not super interested in Rui today, but I think he would at least be a playable option if those guys are out. But for now, it's just kind of a wait and see on the Wizards. Assuming these guys are in, Porzingis and Gafford, I'm pretty much going to fade the Wizards here. And then on the other side with the Knicks, so Julius Randle at 10-3, I'm not super in love with at this price tag. The Knicks do have RJ Barrett back, so with RJ Barrett back, that definitely hurts Randle a little bit, hurts Brunson a little bit. Neither one of those guys look like priority plays at their price tag. Same goes for Barrett. I mean, it's just not that appealing of a game, honestly. Mitchell Robinson, I don't mind the spot for him. We've seen the Wizards give up some big games to centers. Mitch has been playing really big minutes lately. He's 5,600. I think he's playable on this slate, but yeah, I don't really see much I like in this game. We're just going to have to wait for some injury news here. Did forget about Monte Morris. So Monte Morris, I believe, is questionable as well. He's questionable. So this is actually some important news. If Monte Morris does play, I'm not super interested in him, but if he does get ruled out, we would probably see DeLon Wright move into the starting lineup, and DeLon Wright has historically been a pretty productive player when he gets minutes. So if Monte Morris gets ruled out and DeLon Wright starts at point guard, I really like DeLon Wright for value. I think he'd be one of the better value plays on the slate. But that'll be news we just kind of have to wait and see on. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game, the Hawks and the Pacers. So this is one where there's some interesting guys to talk about here. So on the Pacers side, that's where a lot of my interest is coming. No Tyrese Halliburton for today. I think Tyrese Halliburton's going to be out for a couple weeks is what I saw. And Miles Turner is questionable. Miles Turner was a late scratch last game, so we'll have to wait and see if he plays. But without Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, we can expect a lot of guys to benefit here. Buddy Hield, I think, gets a little bit of a bump. I think Benedict Mathurin gets a little bit of a bump. I think Andrew Nembhard gets a little bit of a bump. And then I think TJ McConnell is going to be the guy that sees, the biggest boost in minutes. I expect TJ McConnell to start in place of Halliburton. They could play like Nembhard at point guard and then start somebody else. But I'm assuming McConnell starts. And if McConnell does start, he's going to be one of the best value plays on the slate. He's a really good per-minute producer. You would think without Halliburton, he's going to play probably 30 minutes here, maybe more if he's starting. Even if he comes off the bench, I think he's still a decent value play. And then I think a lot of these other guys benefit, like Andrew Nembhard we saw earlier this season in the games that Halliburton missed. Nembhard was putting up some huge games. Now, worth noting that those games, McConnell did not play in, but I think Nembhard gets a boost without Halliburton. I think he's going to handle the ball more. I think his, just point per minute production should spike. So for value, I really like Nembhard and I really like McConnell. I think Buddy Hield looks solid. He had a big game last game, put up 31 points, had 8 rebounds. He's gets a boost with Halliburton off the floor. He's going to be kind of the number one guy on offense. So kind of interested in Buddy Hield here. And then if Miles Turner plays, I think Miles Turner is in line to have a really big role. I think he should get a nice bump in usage. He should be really productive on a per-minute basis, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see if he's able to go. If Miles Turner does not play, we'll probably see Isaiah Jackson start again. I think it was, or not Isaiah Jackson, excuse me. I think it was James Johnson that actually started last game. I don't think James Johnson really did much. I clicked on Jalen Johnson. Where's James Johnson at? There he is. James Johnson, I don't think he really did much. He played 13 minutes. He did start, though. We did see Jalen Smith start as well. I think Jalen Smith would probably be the guy that benefits most. Now, he was not super productive last game, but Jalen Smith has historically been a relatively productive player when he gets minutes, and I would assume he probably starts at center if Turner's out. So I would like Jalen Smith quite a bit for value. If James Johnson starts again, probably wouldn't go there. Isaiah Jackson, I know he's a guy that could get minutes, but he's kind of been he did play last game, so he did get 19 minutes last game. So he's a candidate to potentially start if Turner's out. But for now, I would assume it would be Jalen Smith. And if Jalen Smith does start again in place of Turner, if he were to start again, I would like him for value as well. But that'll probably do it for the Pacers. There's definitely a lot of value that's in play on this team. Now, on the other side with Atlanta, not as much to like on Atlanta. Trae Young's back for this game. At this price tag of 10-1, I'm not super interested in Trae here. I think this game does have a pretty high total. I think this will be a pretty high-scoring game. Both these teams, Atlanta and Indiana, play pretty fast. Now, without Halliburton, maybe Indiana slows down their pace a little bit, but I'm not super interested in Trae. Not really interested in DeJounte either. The bigs for Atlanta, with Clint Capella still out, I think John Collins and Onyeka Okongwu are playable options. I definitely think the matchup for Okongwu is pretty good. We've seen the Pacers give up some big games to centers. If they're without Miles Turner, I think this would be an even better matchup for Okongwu. He's been playing big minutes lately. I think he plays big minutes here, barring injury or foul trouble or blowout. So honestly, my favorite play on Atlanta is probably Okongwu at 5,600. But I don't really like many Hawks here. Most of my interest in this game is on the Indiana side. There's a lot of value on Indiana that we just talked about. Let's go and move on to the next one, the Pelicans and the Pistons. So the Pistons today, pretty easy team to go through. I don't see much I like on the Pistons here. I know some of these guys had a big game last game, but Bojan at 6,400, I'm not super interested in. I think this price tag is about right for him. Don't love the matchup either against the Pelicans. And we always talk about with the Pistons, there's always blowout risks, with the Pistons just because they're such a bad team. But they are playing at home here. Maybe this game stays close, but on a 9-game slate, I don't really see myself rostering many Pistons here. They've been pretty thin on bigs lately. No Jalen Duren, no Marvin Bagley. Isaiah Stewart's questionable. I think if Isaiah Stewart plays, he's probably my favorite play on the Pistons because Isaiah Stewart would have to start at center here. He would play a ton of minutes just because they're so thin on big men right now. He's got power forward and center eligibility, so I actually would like him at 5,300 if he's in. If he's out, obviously we can expect Nerlens Noel to continue to start. Now, in the 2 games Noel has started, he's only played 21 minutes, so I think his minutes floor and ceiling is pretty low. I don't see him playing huge minutes, but he would be playable, if he continues to start. But again, I really don't see myself going to many Pistons today. I know Sadiq Bey had a really big game last game, and he's been good since being moved into the starting lineups. 4,800 is still pretty cheap for Sadiq Bey, especially if he's going to continue to play these big minutes. So that'll be something to keep an eye on if he's still in the starting lineup, I guess. So I guess they would start Bojan, Hayes, Ivy, Bey, and then Noel. So yeah, I guess he will still start. Even if Isaiah Stewart plays. So I think Sadiq Bey for value is fine at 4,800. I would say Bey and probably Stewart, assuming Stewart plays, are my 2 favorite plays from Detroit. I think. And then on the other side with the Pelicans, so you obviously no Zion, no Ingram. Really good spot here for CJ McCollum. Detroit has given up some really big games to point guards this season. They've been a really bad defensive team overall. The price tag on McCollum, though, at $9,400 is pretty expensive. I don't love this price tag on McCollum. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but he does have 50-plus point upside. We've seen him put up 55 last game against Boston. Matchup's really good. Just again, $9,400 is really, really tough to pay for McCollum. But I think the matchup does make him a playable option. I think Jonas Valanciunas at 6,500 looks okay. I like the matchup for him against Detroit. Detroit, again, just such a bad defensive team. J-Val's minutes got cut down a little bit last game against Boston, but I think this is a matchup against Detroit where you could definitely see his minutes get back up to normal, like 28-30. And when J-Val does play 28-30 minutes, he can put up big games. So I don't mind J-Val at 6,500. Rest of the Pelicans, though, probably going to pass on. I know Najee Marshall's had some big games lately, but his price tag's also up to $5,800. At this price tag, he's not really a standout play, in my opinion. He's just kind of there. So, yeah, that'll do it for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, the Spurs and the Warriors. So, start off on San Antonio side here. For San Antonio, Keldon Johnson at 6,800, I kind of like here. Good matchup against Golden State. I wouldn't say good matchup, but Golden State does play at a really fast pace, so I think it's should be a really fast-paced, high-scoring game. The only concern you have is just can San Antonio keep the game close? But if the game stays close like it did last game against Memphis, I mean, we saw Keldon Johnson play 35 minutes. His usage is going to be really good without Devin Vassell. He's going to be the clear number one guy on offense. The price tag at 6,800 looks pretty solid. I definitely think Keldon Johnson is in play today. The rest of the Spurs, though, Trey Jones, Jakob Poeltl, at their price tags, I'm not as interested in them. Jakob Poeltl's the guy that always has a big ceiling, can put up a big game any night. Last game put up 43 DK points in only 26 minutes. Matchup against Golden State, I don't love, but Poeltl, if this game's close, probably plays around 30 minutes. He's playable. Trey Jones is playable, but neither one of those guys I'm super interested in. The rest of San Antonio, I'm probably going to pass on these guys. I think it's really just Keldon that stands out the most from the Spurs. And then on the Golden State side, so you got Steph Curry at 10,400. Curry, first game back from injury, played 31 minutes, was a little bit rusty, only shot 8 for 22, 5 for 15 from 3, had 33 DK points. He played 31 minutes his first game back from injury, so I guess we're going to get like 32, 33 minutes from Steph. Maybe he just plays full minutes here. Matchup against San Antonio is obviously really good. Spurs, again, bad defensive team, play at a really fast pace. If this game does stay close, Steph has a ton of upside. It's his second game back from injury, so I don't think I'm going to play him in DFS, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him put up a big game here just because the matchup's so good. But I think there's other guys I'd rather pay up for on this slate. The rest of Golden State, Poole and Wiggins and Clay, these guys are all too pricey, in my opinion, with Steph back. Draymond, I don't mind Draymond here. Like, this is a matchup I think Draymond can put up a big game. San Antonio, again, like, this is a spot where I could definitely see Draymond having, like, a triple-double. But on a 9-game slate, I don't really see myself rostering Draymond, at least not in my main lineup. If I was playing a lot of lineups, sure, I'd sprinkle Draymond in. But, as a one-lineup guy, I don't think I get to Draymond. So, yeah, that'll do it for that game. It should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. It's just the price tags on a lot of these guys don't make really any of them stand out. I think Keldon, again, is my favorite play in this game. But let's move on to the next one, OKC and Chicago. So we'll start off on the Chicago side. DeMar DeRozan is doubtful for this game. He did not play last game, not expected to play today. And then Zach LaVine, I believe, is probable, so he is expected to play. So with DeMar DeRozan doubtful, we can expect, once again, really big role for both Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. LaVine at 9,200, got priced up a good amount, had a really big game last game without DeRozan, played 41 minutes, took 28 shots. Clearly, the shot volume, the usage, the minutes are going to be there for LaVine. He's probably going to be guarded by Lou Dort here, and that's not the best matchup overall, but I still think LaVine's playable. I think it's a fantastic spot for Vooch. Really like Vooch today against OKC. We know this OKC team gives up big games to centers. They've struggled to rebound this year. They're just not a good defensive team against bigs. This is a spot where Vooch should be able to dominate. Between LaVine or Vooch, I like both quite a bit, but I think given the savings, given the better matchup for Vooch, I think he's the guy that I would rather target here. This is definitely a spot where Vooch should have a lot of success, so I do like him a ton. The rest of the Bulls, though, Patrick Williams, these guys like Io, Kobe White, probably going to pass on these guys. There's some upside for these guys, especially like a guy like Kobe White. Like, Kobe White can get hot from the field. Without DeRozan, I think he's playable. He did get 29 minutes last game, so if he's going to play around 30 minutes again, at 3,800, he is definitely a playable value. But I don't think you get much of a ceiling from Patrick Williams or Io. It's really the usage in this Bulls offense is going to be dominated by LaVine and Vooch, and those are the two guys I like most from Chicago. Now, on the OKC side, we're going to have to watch the injury report for OKC. We've seen OKC do a lot of weird things on back-to-backs. I would not be surprised if they rest some guys here. It's the second night of a back-to-back for OKC, but I think for now, we just kind of have to assume that everyone is playing. If everyone's in for OKC, I really don't like much here. SGA did have a really big game on Thursday, even in a tough matchup against Philly. Can't remember how many fantasy points he finished with, but I think he had like almost 60 DraftKings points, something like that. Matchup here against Chicago, I don't love by any means, but I think SGA is one of these guys that can put up a huge game any night. On this slate, though, he's more of a GPP option, not a standout option. Giddey, the rest of these guys I'm probably just going to avoid. I really don't see myself going to many OKC plays here. But again, second night of a back-to-back for OKC. Be on the lookout. We could definitely get some guys ruled out here on the second night of a back-to-back. But that'll do it for that game. Let's move on to the next one, Phoenix and Minnesota. So for Minnesota today, some injuries to monitor here. The big one is Anthony Edwards, who is questionable. Anthony Edwards did play last game. He was questionable last game. He wound up playing. He got injured like mid-game and then got ruled out, and then he actually wound up returning. So I don't really know about Anthony Edwards' status here for this game against Phoenix. If Anthony Edwards plays, probably going to pass on him. Not the best matchup against Phoenix. Plus, coming back from an injury, we don't really know if he's 100%. He didn't really play full minutes last game. Not super interested in Edwards today. Gobert and Russell at their price tags I think are playable, but neither one I love. Gobert in this matchup against Phoenix, especially if Phoenix is without DeAndre Ayton like that, I think this is a spot Gobert could have some success. Gobert has been playing pretty big minutes lately. His production's been better. We know he's a guy that's going to do a lot of his scoring around the rim. He's going to get a lot of his production on the glass with rebounding, and I think taking Ayton off the floor, that definitely makes this a better matchup for Gobert if Ayton were to be ruled out. So I don't mind Rudy Gobert at 7,400, but the rest of Minnesota, Kyle Anderson, even if he plays, I'm not super interested in. Jaden McDaniels, even if he plays, not super interested in him. Do want to mention though, if Anthony Edwards is out, then it's going to be totally different. So if Anthony Edwards is out, I think we can expect a really big role for D'Angelo Russell, and I would have a lot of interest in Russell, even in a tough matchup. I think Russell would be a really good play at 7,200. I think Kyle Anderson, if he plays, I would like quite a bit. If he plays and Edwards is out. If Edwards is out, I don't know if it changes the role too much for Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels is one of these guys that's just going to be out there for defense. He's not a guy that's really going to show a big ceiling, but he'd get a little boost if Edwards were to be out. And then someone maybe like a Jalen Noel, I think would benefit if Edwards is out. So there would definitely be some value plays to go to from Minnesota here if Edwards got ruled out. We'll have to wait and see there. Now on the Phoenix side, so we don't really know yet who's in for Phoenix. No Devin Booker though, no Chris Paul. Obviously Cam Johnson and Cameron Payne still out. No Landry Shamet either. Really the only question mark we have to keep an eye on is DeAndre Ayton's status. DeAndre Ayton is questionable once again for this game. So if Ayton plays, I think he's going to have a really big usage rate. Should be productive here. But the 8K price tag, I don't love. Plus the matchup with Gobert is not the greatest. I'm not super interested in Ayton even if he's in. I think Mikal Bridges is going to have a really big role here. He should have to play huge minutes. As long as Phoenix can keep this game close, I think he offers some upside, but his price tag did go up to 6,600, so I'm not super interested in Mikal Bridges here. Value though from Phoenix, we kind of have to look to some of these value guys. So Phoenix, I think, is only going to have a 10-man rotation. If Ayton is out, I think they'll have 10 available players because they did sign Saben Lee. I don't know if Saben Lee's in the player pool, but they did. Yeah, he is in the player pool. They did sign him. He didn't play much last game. He played 15 minutes. A lot of that was in blowout. But he would be available for some minutes. But we'd have to look to guys like Torrey Craig and Dario Saric and Dwayne Washington. So Dwayne Washington, last few games, without Chris Paul, without Booker, he's been okay. Hasn't been fantastic. Last game he only played 24 minutes. Didn't really get a ton of run. Didn't have the best game overall. But at 5K, with the upside that he has shown when he's gotten minutes this season, he's been pretty productive with Paul and Booker off the floor. He's been a guy that can soak up a lot of usage as well. So I'm still interested in Dwayne Washington today at 5K. I think he's still in play. Torrey Craig I kind of like for value. He's going to play good minutes. He's been productive on a per-minute basis lately. Obviously, there's just so many opportunities for a lot of these guys without Paul, without Booker, and potentially without Ayton as well. I think Craig is still a viable cheap option. I think Dario Saric is still a viable cheap option. We've seen Dario Saric start the last two games, play 30 and 26 minutes. Last game was solid, 22 DK points in 26 minutes. Obviously had a great game against Golden State. If Sarge continues to start at 4,400, I think he's someone we can kind of consider for value. But the bigs from Phoenix, if Ayton's out, Bismack Biyombo and Jock Landale, I'll probably pass on those guys today. For the most part, they're just going to split the center minutes. You might see Dario Saric play some minutes at center. I think really when we're looking for Phoenix value today, I think Washington, Craig, Sarge, assuming all those guys, assuming Washington and Sarge are both starting again, I think those are the guys I like most for value. But that'll do it for Phoenix, and that'll do it for this game. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We got 3 more games to hit over, guys. So Orlando and Utah. We'll start off on the Utah side. Lauri Markkanen, I say it every video, he's been amazing this season, but 9,800, I just can't pay that price tag for Lauri Markkanen. There's just other guys I'd rather pay that price tag for. Like, I'd rather go to Jokic, assuming he plays. We'll talk about him later. You got Kawhi playing without Paul George. You got De'Aaron Fox in a great matchup. There's just other guys I'd rather pay up for today. Jordan Clarkson at 7,100 just feels like a playable option, but I'm not super interested in Clarkson. I mean, Utah just not a team I have a ton of interest in today. I don't see much I like on this team. I think, Walker Kessler is still okay at 5K. He should start in place of Kelly Olynyk while Kelly Olynyk's out. He did play 30 minutes last game. I mean, if we get 30 minutes again from Walker Kessler, like, he can definitely outperform a 5K salary. So, like, I don't hate him as a value play. I think he's viable. But really, yeah, don't like much on Utah here. Now on the Orlando side, I don't love a ton on Orlando either. I think the one guy that's kind of interesting just because of the matchup is Wendell Carter Jr. We've seen the Jazz give up some big games to centers, and they've been really bad defensively against centers this season. Wendell Carter Jr., since he's been a starter, since he's been starting lately, he's been playing about 30 to 32 minutes, and I think his minutes might even start to just slowly increase as he gets more playing time. We saw at the beginning of the season, Wendell Carter Jr. was playing like 35, 36 minutes in competitive games. So I think we could get like 32, 33, 34 minutes from Wendell Carter Jr. here in a really good matchup. Only 6,500. He's probably my favorite play on Orlando. Probably my favorite play in this game. I think the centers, Wendell Carter Jr. and Walker Kessler, look solid here. But that's probably it for this one. I don't see too much else I like in this game. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Denver and the Clippers. So on the Clippers side, still no Paul George. So we can expect Kawhi Leonard to have a really big role once again. Now that Kawhi Leonard is playing his full minutes, I think even at 9,900, he is still someone that I do have interest in for today. Last game without Paul George, obviously had a huge game, played 36 minutes, had over 60 Draftkings points. Matchup here against Denver, I think is okay. I don't think it's a great matchup, but the price tag coming up to 9,900. That doesn't make Kawhi a priority play. I did play Kawhi in my main lineup last slate. Don't know if I'll have him in my main lineup today because I think the $9,900 salary doesn't make him stand out as much, but he's still playable because I think the upside is definitely there without Paul George, especially now that he's playing his full minutes. The rest of the Clippers, though, like Norman Powell, Zubac, don't love these guys value-wise. Terrence Mann has been playing huge minutes lately. He was really, he wasn't great last game. He averaged like 0.5 fantasy points per minute, but he did start at point guard and played 41 minutes. So now that Terrence Mann seems to be their starting point guard, it looks like he's going to be locked into big minutes. So at 4,300, playing the amount of minutes that he is right now, I think Terrence Mann is still in play for value. We'll have to wait and see like what kind of value opens up today, if any value opens up. But as like a first look option, I think Terrence Mann is solid at 4,300. But that's probably it for the Clippers. I don't really like too much else on this team besides those two guys. And then on the Denver side, so big news to keep an eye on here is Jokic, who is actually questionable for this game. Don't know if this is like a back-to-back for the Nuggets. I don't know why Jokic is questionable. It says it's for injury management. But let's see. Do they play Saturday? So Denver does not play Saturday. So Jokic just questionable for today. We'll have to see if he plays. Again, really big news. If Jokic were to get ruled out, really don't know what they would do with the starting lineup. I guess they could go with just DeAndre Jordan in a game against the Clippers. DeAndre Jordan revenge game. I don't know if DeAndre Jordan would be someone that I would really want to target for value. But if he does start for Jokic, he would definitely be playable at 3K. They could elect to play like Zeke Naji at center. We did see Zeke Naji pretty much play the backup center minutes last game, so like he could be someone worth considering if he starts at center. But obviously there'd be some value to go to from Denver. And then if Jokic did get ruled out, we could expect a much bigger role, much bigger usage rate for Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. I would have interest in all three of those guys. They're all pretty affordable. 6,700 for Murray, 6,200 for Gordon, 5,200 for MPJ. All three of those guys will look really good today if Jokic is out. So, gonna have to wait and see here, if Jokic is in or out. If Jokic plays, I think Jokic is viable. I don't love him in this spot, but I think he's viable. The rest of Denver, I'm probably gonna pass on though if Jokic is in. Jamal Murray at 6,700, I could still see playing even if Jokic plays. I don't mind going there. But that's pretty much it for this game. I think we talked about really all the guys I have interest in here. So let's move on to the last game of the night, the Kings and the Rockets. Did just see these teams play a couple days ago, playing once again today. So Start off on the Sacramento side. Domantas Sabonis had a huge game against Houston, put up 55 DK points, almost had a triple-double, played 38 minutes. He's just been playing huge minutes as of late. He's been stuffing the stat sheet. I think Sabonis at 10-6 is viable. At this price tag, like, we haven't really seen Sabonis put up like 65, 70, which is kind of what you want when you're rostering a guy at almost 11K. You want him to put up like 70. And we haven't really seen that kind of upside from Sabonis, but he's been super consistent, been giving you like 50, 55 almost every night. He's still a viable play. I think it's a great matchup for De'Aaron Fox. Fox was a little bit disappointing against Houston a few days ago, but we've seen Houston get killed by guards this season. This is a game that should be played at a fast pace, should be high scoring. I mean, they scored like, 250 points last game total. We could see it, 250 points scored again in this game. So I think De'Aaron Fox, really good matchup for him. Price tag at 9K doesn't make him a standout play, but definitely like the spot overall. And then Kevin Huerter was questionable last game, did not play, so we'll have to see if he's able to return. If Kevin Huerter does come back, I don't really like anything else on Sacramento, but if Kevin Huerter remains out, I think it's a little boost for Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, and Terrence Davis. We did see Terrence Davis start in place of Kevin Huerter. He did not do that much, and he didn't really play that many minutes, only 23 minutes, 18 Draftkings points, but he is still really cheap, 3,200. I think if he starts again, he would be a playable value option. But I think the guys like Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, these would be the guys I'd be most interested in. Keegan Murray had a pretty good game last game, played 34 minutes, had 28 DK points. I think at 4,600, he would be someone worth considering for value if Huerter's out. I think Malik Monk would be someone worth considering for value if Huerter's out. Malik Monk, last game only played 21 minutes, but that could have just been, first game back from injury. Maybe first few games back from injury, they've been trying to keep it easy on him. He also didn't play that well, shot 3 for 13, but I think his upside is definitely higher, assuming Huerter is still out. But then on the Houston side, so we got some injury news to monitor for Houston today, or we got some injury news to talk about, I should say. Kevin Porter Jr. is out for this game, so with no Kevin Porter Jr., we can expect a bigger role for Jalen Green, maybe a bigger role for Şengün as well. I think Jalen Green and Şengün are both going to be the guys that really, do a lot of the heavy lifting on offense, and at their price tags, I think they're both playable. Now, neither one stand out as priority plays. I think Jalen Green at 7,600 looks pretty solid. Wouldn't consider him a priority at 7,600, but I definitely think he's going to play a ton of minutes, going to have really good usage, going to take a ton of shots. I mean, he took 25 shots last game, played 39 minutes after KPJ got injured. So clearly the usage and the role is going to be good for Jalen Green. Şengün I think he did have a triple-double last game. Yeah, triple-double for Şengün last game. I think the matchup's pretty solid for him. We've seen Sacramento give up some big games to centers this year, so don't mind Şengün here. And then if we're talking about value from Houston, so I think Jabari Smith probably gets a little bit of a boost without Kevin Porter Jr. He only played 28 minutes last game, but I think at 5K, we can expect him to play 30, 32 minutes, and I think there's a little bit more upside for him. I think Eric Gordon benefits without Kevin Porter Jr. We've seen him have some good games after, in the games that KPJ has missed this season. He played 28 minutes last game, had 24 DK points. Not a guy that has really shown much upside this season, but I think at 3,900, he's really cheap. I definitely have some interest in Eric Gordon today for value. And then KJ Martin, I assume, will start in place of Kevin Porter Jr. I think he started the second half last game, if I remember correctly. So if Kevin Porter Jr. or if KJ Martin, winds up starting in place of Kevin Porter Jr., KJ Martin's going to be a pretty good value at 3,800. I have a lot of interest in him if he does wind up starting. So we'll have to kind of pay attention to that. Last game of the slate, so just have to keep our eye on things throughout the night. But, assuming KJ Martin is starting at 3,800, I like him for value. Eric Gordon, I think, gets a bump without KPJ. Like him for value as well. But I think that'll do it for that game, and I think that'll do it for this Friday night 9-game slate. So as always, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks. Use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. Definitely check them out if you guys have not yet. But good luck tonight on this slate. Appreciate you guys watching the video. Hope you guys enjoy your Friday night, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.